Hey, Giant fans and football fans, welcome to the Giants Grit channel, your fan channel of the New York Football Giants with reasonable and rational reviews and views without the theatrics. Well, today's November 18th, the morning of November 18th, and it's been announced that Daniel Jones has been benched for Tommy DeVito. Finally, it happened. The Giants are sitting at 2-8, so they're going on and moving on and benching Daniel Jones. He has an injury contract clause that he'd be paid if he got injured, and that would hurt them for next year's cap. So, fortunately, they're moving on from him. I was getting really tired of watching, just him play terrible. I was feeling bad for him. So, as I'm sure a lot of other Giant fans, even non-Giant fans. So, Tommy DeVito, I'm okay with the decision going with Tommy DeVito rather than Drew Lock, because Tommy DeVito, he's still cost controlled. We can have him here for another couple of years. You want to see if he's legit number 2 backup. I think he is. I think he's got potential. So, I'm very happy with the decision. But this is not about that. This is about the draft preview. Giants didn't have a game this week, so we're going to have our midseason draft preview. It's a little bit past midseason, but that's okay. So first, let me define what I think their needs are and then where I think they should go. I think the Giants, need number one is quarterback one, obviously. Need number 2 I have is defensive tackle, a starting defensive tackle to play next to Dexter Lawrence, because obviously Nacho, DJ Davison, Armon Watts, and Jordan Riley are just not cutting it. I wouldn't even say maybe they're rotational players, but they're definitely of the backup variety and not guys you want starting. So defensive tackle is a strong, super strong need. The other need, and I kind of have them tied, is between safety and offensive guard. For offensive guard, they're losing. Greg Van Witten is 34 years old. He's having a decent year, so I'm happy that he's playing well. But he's on a 1-year contract. He's 34 years old. His game could fall off a cliff. Austin Stinney, he's hurt, but he's on a 1-year contract. Oh, he's not hurt, excuse me. But he's on a 1-year contract. He's a backup. I confuse him with Schlottman. Schlottman is, he's signed for 2 years, but he's more primarily JMS's backup at center. So, and then again for third need, I think safety is a player that we'll need, because I think Jason Pinnock, I think they're going to let him walk in free agency. I don't think he's really worth a re-sign. He's a solid player, but I don't think he'd be worth if they had to pay him big bucks. But I also don't think anyone behind him. Dane Belton, I think he's exactly what he is. He's just a backup player. I don't think he's got that starter potential, and he has not looked good in place of Jason Pinnock in the last game. So a guy you still want on the team, but definitely not a guy you want starting. So, and then they cut Gervais Owens back in the preseason, a guy who I thought showed potential. So we're really the cupboard's kind of bare there at safety. So if Pinnock walks, safety becomes a big need. So those are the top 3 needs that they have. Obviously, free agency we have to take into account. I'd like to hit those spots, especially defensive tackle and safety. So we'll see. And then I have wide receiver too, because I think they're going to lose Darius Slayton. I think someone will pay him. I think he'll be a very good receiver. I think he's been a good receiver for the Giants his whole career, but unfortunately with Daniel Jones, he had to be a number 1 receiver until we got Neighbors. So nonetheless, I think he's leaving. Jalen Hyatt did not step up this year. He flashed last year. We were all hoping that he was going to be the number 2 receiver this year, but unfortunately, he showed some hope in the Panther game. He finally got a few more catches, and there's still high hopes for him. And again, a new quarterback would certainly help. But I think they got to hedge their bets and draft a guy who they think could potentially be a number 2 receiver. If he doesn't make it as a number 2 receiver and Hyatt steps up, then they can go ahead and make this guy, I hope that they draft, as their 4th receiver. Wan'Dale will obviously be the slot receiver, so with Neighbors being the number 1 receiver. And that's pretty much, I pretty much just listed 5 needs that they got to hit in the draft. Teams say they draft best player available, but I mean, they really go by their needs. So, I mean, and the salary cap dictates that as well as positional value. So I also have them, they want to get some corner depth, some offensive tackle depth, defensive tackle again, and also some edge depth because they'll probably lose Azeez Ojulari to free agency. I don't think the Giants will be able to afford him because I think he could get decent money because he has looked, at least in the pass rush aspect, he has looked decent in the pass rush department. So I think another team might even try him as a starter, even though he's really poor against the run. And then finally, I have tight end depth. I think I like the potential that Theo Johnson is showing for the Giants. I think he could be a long-term starter. I think he is the answer at that spot. However, behind him, Daniel Bellinger will be in his last year, who I think is a solid backup. More potential was wanted from him, but that didn't work out. But I think he's a solid backup. However, I don't think he'll be re-signed. And then Chris Manhertz, who's an excellent blocker, he's 32 years old, so I think the chances of them signing him might be slim. So we'll see. Hopefully there'll be a late round or even free agency, undrafted free agent, but I'd like to see them hit tight end for tight end depth as well. So now moving on. So let me go ahead and start the draft preview, what I think they should do. This is what the Giants Grit think the Giants should do. Will they do it? I ran a couple of simulators and ran several times on what I think who will be available. Now, these rankings, if you will change as the season progresses. Players will rise up, players will fall due to injury. Some players will just develop and some players will just slump. And then, of course, the combine and the pro days will definitely influence NFL scouts and front offices. So, with the first pick of the NFL 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Cameron Ward, quarterback out of Miami. I think Cameron Ward's a solid quarterback. He's a good prospect. He's 6'2", 220 pounds out of Miami. He's having a Heisman Trophy-worthy season going on right now. He's got an excellent arm. He can make all the throws. He can throw them off platform. He's got nice mobility. Good kid, good character kid. Nothing bad off the field. So I think the Giants will be very lucky to get Cameron Ward. I think he's got franchise quarterback ability. So now moving on to pick number 2. In 2025, the New York Giants select Deone Walker, a defensive tackle out of Kentucky. He's a 6'6", 240-pound monster. And a lot of people probably think he won't last this long. But I think he may drop in the draft because some people might think he might be too big. As a lot of people might think he might be only a good run defender. But he's actually what seems to be better against the pass than he is against the run. He's extremely athletic. I think some NFL teams might be a little scared because if he could stay healthy, there's a lot of players that almost look, it sounds strange to be too big for the NFL, but some people might think he falls into that category. If anything, I think his comparison is to Dexter Lawrence, our own Dexter Lawrence, the Giants' best player. Can you imagine having 2 Dexter Lawrence types playing next to each other? Again, they'd be lucky. He's anywhere from a mid-first rounder to a very early second rounder. I think the Giants might get lucky. Again, it depends on the combine and the pro days as well, and his interviews. But the Giants would jump all over that pick if Deone Walker lasts to their second-round pick. Now, with their third-round pick, the New York Giants select Tate Ratledge, a guard out of Georgia. Tate Ratledge is a very good guard who, again, they'll have to be lucky for him to drop to this pick. But it may work against him a little bit because he's a pure right guard. At least that's his only experience in college is that right guard. That's why I think he drafts last to their third-round pick. Again, only experience at right guard. But don't underestimate his athleticism. In high school, he played offensive tackle, defensive line, as well as guard, and he was a standout in basketball and track and field. So, again, I think the Giants would be very fortunate to get him in the third round. But I think he's a late second rounder, early third rounder. So, yeah, that'd be a great pick for the Giants, and he would fill a need right away. Now, with their fourth pick, they have 2 picks in the fourth round. With their fourth pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Walter Nolen, a defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. Now, Nolen, he's an excellent prospect why is he drop into the fourth round when he was projected to be pretty much a late first rounder to a mid second rounder going into the season is he was a 5-star recruit out of high school and the number 2 overall prospect, but he hasn't quite been, he's been good. He hasn't been a bust in college per se, but he hasn't quite lived up to the hype of being the number 2 overall college prospect. I think he's good against the run. He's also good against the pass. He's more of a penetrator type with good lateral quickness and penetrate type to get to the quarterback rather than give an offensive lineman a ride push into the quarterback, kind of like Dexter Lawrence does. So I think he's a nice athletic piece that we can get there on a defensive line rotation. As a matter of fact, I think he'd be a starter if he makes it to the Giants picking there in the fourth round. So, and moving on to their second pick of the fourth round, the New York Giants select Rod Moore, a safety out of Michigan University. Now, Rod Moore is currently hurt. He hurt his ACL. That's why I think he drafts to the fourth round. I think he would have been anywhere from, I would say, early third rounder to late third rounder, but he lasts to the end of the fourth round. He's solid. He's solid against the run and the pass, so I like that he's a versatile piece. He can play the slot and cover a tight end or a big receiver. You really don't want him playing a quick slot receiver, but nonetheless, I think the Giants would be very fortunate to get a player like him, and he's a top special teamer. So while the Giants are figuring out where to play him and how he fits into their defense, he'll be an excellent special team player for them. And again, I think he lasts this long because of said ACL injury. Now, the Giants don't have a pick in the fifth round, but in the sixth round, the New York Giants select Antoine Juice Wells, wide receiver out of Mississippi. Juice Wells is a nice prospect who I think is going to drop a little bit because of the lack of speed. He's not a slow receiver by any means. He's a strong receiver. He's got good size. He's listed anywhere from 6 foot to 6'1", from 190 pounds to 210 pounds. That's quite a listing there. So I just have him as a 6 foot, 205 pound receiver. Again, he's physical, he's strong, he's very good after the catch, and he's got good hands. So he may not be as explosive as you'd like someone to be, but if he had the deep speed and the explosion, then he wouldn't have lasted to the sixth round. So I think he'd be a nice prospect. And again, like I said earlier, I think Giants will have him coming in as the fourth receiver, but depending on how things work with Jalen Hyatt, he could possibly be the second receiver. It would probably be not his rookie year, but maybe the second year. So nice prospect to get if they can get that. And now, within the seventh round, they have 2 picks in the seventh round. With their first pick in the seventh round, the Giants select Derek Moore, an edge rusher out of Michigan. No relation to Rob Moore, also of the University of Michigan. He's an edge rusher. He's 6'3", 260 pounds. He runs a 4.65 40-yard dash. He's got good size, good speed, good athleticism, good length. Got a good speed rush and a good power rush. So you're saying, how in the world can this guy last to the seventh round? Well, he's playing with 3 better prospects on that Michigan defensive line. So I think he gets overlooked a little bit. Plus his stats aren't that great. I mean, he's only got 6 career snaps, and this is his 3rd year in the Michigan program. Part of the reason he's not polished at all, he has a speed rush, he has a power rush, but he has no pass rush moves. He has no counters. His hand use is pretty poor. And when a blocker gets a hold of him, that play is he's pretty much done for. So he's got to get better at disengaging blocks. But he's a nice piece of clay for defensive line coaches to work with. And I think the Giants would be fortunate to get a guy like this in the 7th round. We need some edge rush depth, especially when I think we're going to lose Azeez Ojulari. And I think Tomon Fox is just a marginal average player who will always be a backup. And Brandon Whitley, I feel the same about him. So I think the Giants have to address the edge, and I think they'd be fortunate to get Derek Moore out of Michigan here in the 7th round. And with their last pick, their second pick of the 7th round, the New York Giants select Fa'ali Fa'amoy. Again, that's Fa'alili Fa'amoy. Sorry if I'm mangling his name. Giants need to get more Polynesian players on the roster. But seriously, I think the Giants would get an offensive tackle prospect here late. And I think he lasts late because he's only played right tackle. When he came to Washington, he went to the University of Washington State. He went there as a defensive end. He was only about 225, 230 pounds. He's up to 315 pounds. He's 6'5". He's a long arm tackle. Obviously, he doesn't have as much experience because he didn't play offensive tackle in high school. But nonetheless, he's got 3 years playing at right tackle for the Washington State Cougars. He's long-armed, got good length. He's not as strong as he needs to be, and he's only 315 pounds, and he's got the frame to, of course, get bigger. But I think that's a good, again, a mold of clay for the offensive line coaches to work with. He's a physical player. He's a better pass blocker than he is run blocker. And I noticed the game against Arizona State. He's really good with his hands and arms, and I do like that. And he plays to the whistle, so I think he'd be a nice prospect for the Giants to have at offensive tackle. And offensive tackle, it may not be as big a need this year, but I think, for 2025, but going into 2026, between the uncertainty of Evan Neal, I mean, they'll have him next year, but will they sign him for this 5th-year option? May or may not. And then their current right tackle, Jamie Alumineer, who's a very good player for them. He only signed a 2-year contract, so he'll be on, his the 2nd year of that 2-year contract, and he'll be 31 or 32 years old. So will he want to re-sign with the Giants again after that? That remains to be seen. So yeah, I think the Giants definitely got to get offensive tackle in the pipeline to develop. And also with Josh Azuzu, I think he's a better fit at guard. And it doesn't seem like the Giants know where they want to put Azuzu. So, and nonetheless, he'd be going into his 4th year with the team. So, yeah, it would be nice to get a prospect like Fa'amoy on the roster. So, well, that's it, guys. Those are all 8 draft picks for the Giants on what I think they'll be getting. I'll have the recap on somewhere here on the screen, and you can see what I think the Giants would be an excellent mock draft as of today, and this is November 18th. Of course, things will change again when the combine comes. Well, when the Pro Bowls come, when the Senior Bowl comes, when the combine comes, and the pro days. A lot of these players will go up and down. It all depends. But as of today, this is what I think the Giants should do at midseason. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Please like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. Take care, everybody.